Thanks so much for having me. So I'm a freelance technical writer and editor. I've got a background in geology. I've been in the industry for about 15 years now, and I've written and managed various leading trade publications. I still do write for some of them from time to time. And in 2019, I set up a publication called The Intelligent Miner, which the tagline on that one is putting mining into perspective. So it is designed to be read by people both inside and outside of the industry, and really to provide a bridge, I suppose, a way for people to look into the industry and see some of the cool stuff that we've got going in, to find out more about what we do and about our values. And that's a link that I think is generally missing in the media at the moment. So I wanted to create a platform that could do that.
Fantastic. And I mean, with regards to this, sorry, Carly, I'm not sure. I'm trying to work out behind the scenes if there is a presentation for you, or if we're having a conversation. Fantastic. Because I didn't want to steal your slides in case you had something behind the scenes. So with regards to this, what kind of reaction are you getting from people with regards to the knowledge that you're sharing?
A really good one. I mean, The Intelligent Miner, when I first set it up, it started as a blog, really, just me sort of sharing my musings on the mining industry and some of the challenges that we were up against. And I really strongly believe that we don't necessarily need to provide answers to all of these challenges. I think just laying them out on the table and getting different parties, different people with different perspectives in to debate them and have a chat and just open that conversation is so important. And yeah, it started as a blog, no great expectations around that. And the readership's just grown from there. People agreed that we really needed a platform that could provide that. And yeah, it's great to see not just the number of readers and viewers who are coming back every month and signing up to the newsletter and things like that, but also, you know, that I suppose the status of people. There's CEOs, there's really high level execs, all the way down to the people who are working on the sites, people from outside of the mining industry getting involved and sharing their opinions. And that's really, it's great to see.
So what kind of, so firstly, what are the hot topics that everybody loves? And then secondly, what are the emotive topics?
Ooh, well, I think, I mean, in general, sort of B2B mining publications, and I should firstly say that there are some really great B2B publications out there, but they are, you know, they are B2B publications. They're not designed to be picked up and read by people outside of the mining industry. And that is where the majority of mining stakeholders are. At the end of the day, we're all stakeholders in the mining industry, whether we realize it or not. If we are consumers and end users, we're stakeholders as far as I'm concerned. So on the B2B side, I mean, there's loads of topics that are hot right now, things like electric vehicles, energy efficient comminutions and technologies, AI. There are some really, really interesting ones, biomining, things like that, ways that we can actually mine without creating mines. And certainly on the Intelligent Miner, I cover things like that too, but the idea is to provide a slightly wider scope, so an ecosystem perspective on some of these topics. And on there, we've done a lot so far this year covering mining and its relationship with the environment, its relationship with society, the way that we can provide two-way value. You know, mining's not just taking resources. How can we give back to people in the environment as well? And then there's lots coming up around decarbonisation. That's always a really, really important and a well-read topic as well. People are interested in the contribution that mining can make as part of the energy transition. And I would actually say it's when we get into the just transition and how we can make it just, that's when people start to get emotive about it. Because at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's all very well having these targets for metals production, but unless we can hit them in a way that delivers value for everyone and is fair, provides fair outcomes, then, you know, is there any point in making it happen?
So with that, if I may, can we delve into the emotive area? So what do you think? So what do you have coming back at you? Because you know, it's called The Intelligent Miner. Do people pick up on that mining word, and does that create problems for you?
You know what? No, actually. I think the majority of people are willing to sit down and perhaps read the article and get a bit of perspective on what's going on first. I've certainly not had any backlash yet. That's not to say it won't come. But I think a lot of what we do on the Intelligent Miner is questioning what it means to mine, what it means to be a mining company, what that looks like, the type of value and business models that we can use to deliver that value. And I think in giving that sort of well-rounded perspective, that full scope of opinions and topics, and I try really hard to get lots of diverse voices onto the platform as well to debate, people from in and outside of the mining industry. I've done a lot around circular economy, for instance, and got some guys from the recycling space in to talk about metals and, you know, how mining could play into that, how it can and how it could in the future. And also a lot of community members as well. It's really nice to have those voices on the platform too, to bring their perspective in. So I think in providing that well-rounded view, people are a little bit more accepting of mining. And I think that's really important. I mean, that's what the publication aims to do at the end of the day. I think there is a massive missing link between the mining industry and the value it provides to different stakeholders. We only see the negative impacts of mining at the moment in the general media. And, you know, things like tailings dam failures and people getting trapped in mines. So that does skew people's perception of mining. And if we can provide more than that, then that's going to be a fantastic way to engage with people outside of the industry, to get them on board, to help secure social license for companies, which is so important if we're going to fast track a lot of these projects and meet our metals supply goals over the next 20 or 30 years, and to bring fresh talent into the industry as well. You know, we need people who aren't just miners anymore. We need executives and tech savvy people and operators with different skill sets. The only way we're going to bring those people in is if we can show them that the mining industry, you know, perhaps it does have poor past performance, but we're going to own that, and we're going to talk about how we can change that, and we're going to make things better. We need to show them that.
So do you think that more information means more focused accountability on those different parties?
I think we need different types of information on every area of the mine industry, not just accountability. But I think what is important is that we emphasize that everybody is accountable, because we are all stakeholders. You know, if you're sitting at home reading an article about mining and you think that's quite a negative article, it's your responsibility to write to those editors and say, could you provide a slightly more balanced view of this? Could you perhaps balance it out with another story on, you know, social change that the industry is bringing about, on environmental restoration, something like that. Likewise, it's very much the responsibility of people within the industry, executives and boards, to reach out to publications, to build bridges with them, to look for opportunities where we can speak out and show some of the good stuff that's going on in the industry. I think everybody's accountable in that sense.
So just following that train of thought, so there was an article published by the BBC, I think over the weekend, where the Royal Society of Chemists had teamed up with a journalist. And they quite rightly said, yeah, we should be making better use of all of the electronic waste, we should be recycling it. And the article suggested that we didn't need mining anymore, so we should stop it because we could get everything from recycling. Now, I think as well, when I read the article, I came to that with my lens. And so therefore I was interpreting it in my way. And I thought, oh dear, this is incorrect. This is quite dangerous in terms of it being pushed out there by the BBC. As you can imagine, there is now chaos going on behind the scenes. Everyone going, this is all incorrect. But I've yet to see anybody truly get out there and say, no, hang on a second, this is wrong, or engage with it in a constructive manner. So I don't know if you saw that article, Carly, or you know, so if you were in that position, how would you go about engaging? Would you engage with the BBC? Would you engage with the Royal Society of Chemists? You know, how would you pull that together?
I think really it needs to be an ecosystem approach to this. So Personally, if I were an executive or a leader at a mining company, reach out to the BBC and say, perhaps, is there an opportunity for me to come on and debate with these guys? Let's get people around the table and talk about this. Is there an opportunity for us to provide an article where we can cite some hard numbers on the quantity of metals that we're going to need in the future and the amount that's being recycled today, and just look at the gap, I suppose, because future metal supplies cannot be met by recycling alone. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I think reach out to the Royal Society of Chemists, see if there are any opportunities to come in and perhaps speak to members or set up a webinar, something like that. And in addition to that, be proactive, get out to universities, talk to the students there so that we can educate them. Go to schools, talk to kids there as well. It starts, people, I talk to my kids who are very small, yet they're really interested. They are genuinely interested in mining. And I think there is often a fear amongst people, people who work in the mining industry that they're going to be picked apart if they come and talk about their jobs and their industry and what it does and the role it plays. And whenever I've spoken out, that has not been the case. People have actually been really interested, really receptive. I think, we need to get rid of that fear.
And just go for it. And actually, so a little story there as well in terms of I guess working with smaller people as well. So I asked my niece over the weekend, so she's 8, and I said, does she, so all the metal in like the car and the knives and forks and the telly, does she know where it comes from? And she said yes. And I said, great, where does it come from? And she said, Lithuania. We all thought, okay, that's an interesting answer. And I said, was there a reason why you said Lithuania? And she said, and looking a bit sheepish, and I said, is there a friend from school who comes from Lithuania? And she said, yes. I just kind of guessed. I thought, okay, fine. And I said, so do you think that the metal does it come from like trees and plants, or does it come from rocks? And she said, rocks. I thought, great. So why do you think it comes from rocks? And she says, because you know lots about rocks and you asked me the question. So I thought, well, okay, that's not necessarily the logic that I was going for, but great. I mean, there's something that's going on there. And so if nothing else, so hopefully we've learned that maybe not all of the metal in the world comes from Lithuania. And also it might come from the rocks as well. So hopefully that was a start to some part of that education. So sorry for that little aside. But then coming back then into some of the articles and the stories that you've been writing, and I mean personally, I love the fact that you bring in those diverse voices. Do you, when you're getting people's opinions on things and you're then having to say, well, what's the storyline that I'm going to weave through the middle? Is that sometimes quite difficult, especially when you've got very conflicting points of view that you need to position in the same article?
It can be really difficult. And I think that's my responsibility as an editor to make sure that I don't downplay anybody's opinions. I actually think it's more interesting when we do get contrasting voices and opinions within an article. And it's my responsibility to make sure that everybody gets an equal say and that their words are portrayed accurately. And as you'll know, we've worked together on articles. I always send out drafts to people beforehand so that they can just read over their input, because quite often when we're talking about mining on a phone call, face to face, we will go down all these little rabbit holes. People will say things that they don't, it can be quite emotive, that they don't necessarily want to appear in print, but in having that conversation, it gives me a much wider perspective, I suppose, and a better understanding of the subject. So for me, giving people a chance to review what they've said is really important. And at the end of the day, good journalists, we don't want things to be published that are A, inaccurate, or B, going to upset or offend people, particularly the ones who have contributed. They've been kind enough to bring their views to the table. And sometimes they are quite different views, particularly on the intelligent miner. And I want to encourage them to come back, basically, to keep having these conversations. I don't want to scare people off. And quite often people are scared of sharing their own opinions about mining, not just the factual stuff. So yeah, it can be tricky. But I think I quite enjoy that challenge.
Yeah, no, exactly. So why do you think people are scared to share their honest feelings?
Oh, because there is so much backlash against the mining industry, because there is this lack of education and understanding about the mining industry and what we do. There is a huge lack of transparency. And that is the reason that people don't trust mining companies. And I think, sorry, what was the question again? Go back to that. I've started to go off on a tangent.
No, it's great. So why do people find it difficult to actually go out there and say, well, this is what I actually think?
Yeah, because so often there is backlash. There is backlash and misinformed backlash at the end of the day. And I mean, for instance, look at the Brumadinho tailings dam failure. I hardly saw any mining executives, I'm trying to think of an example, who stood up and said, you know what, the industry has failed here. We've not done what we should, but here's what we're going to do to make it better. And I think the reason for that is that the people were genuinely scared of the backlash. But I think in owning those failures, in talking about them and saying, yes, we're going to do better, that garners respect. And that is going to be the start of building that trust that we need to secure the social license to operate further down the line. We've got to talk. We've got to open the doors and show people what's going on.
Yeah, brilliant. So, Carly, any final words of wisdom you want to share with us? We've put the link to the Intelligent Miner into the chat, and we'll make sure that it's available on the website and everything for people to view. When's your next edition coming out?
The next article will be next week. So it's just a running publication, a weekly thing. Final thoughts, keep an open mind, I think. Read, speak to people, get the broadest possible outlook that you can on all of these topics. Strive to educate and inform yourself, even if there are areas that you don't understand, areas of mining that you don't understand, or areas that you feel slightly unsure or icky about, that you're not comfortable with, because that's where we're going to grow. That's where we're going to see the greatest change.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much, Carly, for joining us here today. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant.